the reason why we decided to share with you Ryan and Tanya's journey, and this is Ryan and Tanya, so guys, please meet Ryan and Tanya, is because as I mentioned earlier, Ryan and Tanya joined us when we had a bit of a promo rolling. Now, what is a bit of a promo? I want you guys, anyone who watches, and everyone, thank you guys for commenting. I appreciate it. Everyone who's watching now, next week, we've got a little promo going. These guys were on our last promo. Okay, so I believe they jumped on the December end of year promo. We've got another one that we're actually giving away, which is pretty awesome. And I want to show you what jumping onto a promo like this actually does. Sounds really salesy, if I'm honest, but it's also really cool. Shall we get into it?
Let's do it.
Ryan and Tanya, we're not going to be giving any giveaways this time because I think you guys already know how much the property's grown by. But Frank, let's talk us through the property.
So as you can see, nice house. It's 3x1, one car spot or garage, whatever you want to classify it as. Great property. I think over 750 square meters of land. So it's a big house. Okay, in a desirable location in WA. The location is Bunbury. Okay, so I think I'm not sure if we've presented properties here already in Bunbury, but I'm not sure, I can't remember. But where it is in the suburb of it's called Eaton, and it's in a prestige area, in between two of the golf courses in Bunbury. Okay, and of course, a golf course doesn't make a property market grow, but normally, around the golf courses, you do have prestige homes around there, so which is pretty cool. Some of the key highlights, okay, which we can touch on a few little metrics. 0% public housing, once again, that's, which is great, but very, very low level of renters. Only 25% of people are renting in this pocket, which is awesome. So very, very sought after location. High income earners as well. Majority of people earning around over 100 grand a year in this pocket as well, which is fantastic. And 36% of the houses don't have a mortgage. So very, very strong numbers there. And of course, a lot of stability in this market, which is great.
Yep. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Frank, question. What makes an affluent area? Why have you gone and said it a few times, affluent areas? And sorry to the guys, what state? Yes, this is in Western Australia. Sorry, Ali. And Omar, yes, we want giveaways. James, howdy as well. You'll get a giveaway if you get to stay on, boys. So just, I'll say that. What makes an affluent area? How can you just say, oh, it's an affluent area? It's not because of the golf course, that's for sure. Why do you call this an affluent area?
There's a few things that we look at. So we look at income levels, of course, the demographic of people, what they do for work. So is there more professionals and managers living in the area, or would you have more labor workers or machine operators? So this can, start to play a big part. The owned outright levels. So how many of the houses are owned outright? And I guess the higher the percentage, the more wealth in that area. If you look at the strongest property markets in Australia where they just don't go backwards, but the median house price might be 5 million plus. Some of those places like Portsea or Double Bay and stuff like that, those owned outright levels are very high. A lot of old money in there. People never have to sell their properties, and that's why the property market never goes backwards. It just keeps going up. Okay. So these are things that we look at. And then, of course, we look at income versus debt ratios and making sure that there's not, where people come to an area where incomes don't keep going up. Incomes start to plateau and the debt mortgages start to increase, and you get to a point where your more than 30% of the income will start to be contributing to mortgage repayments. You get a thing called rent fatigue, but more importantly, not just that, the demographic of people don't earn enough there. So house prices can have a bit of a ceiling and start to slow down as well. And that depends as well with population increase. If there's no population increase, those markets can stagnate. So there's a bit to it when you're looking at, affluent scores as well.
Gotcha. Cool. I'm with you. When was the purchase?
This purchase was, I think this was last year. Let me get the exact day of when we settled. We settled in May 2020. No, sorry, May this year, 2024. Yeah. So I thought it was last year, May 2024. It's kind of quick.
No. So just going back to kind of the purpose of this, these guys jumped on the promo for December. It didn't take us 5 months to purchase the property. It took them a while to get all finances and whatnot in order. and the purchase and settlement happened in May. So it's been June, July, August. Yeah, so it's been 3 months. 3 months since they've officially settled on the asset. What's the asset done? Talk us through that one.
As you can see, it's $574,000, which is
Jeez.
huge.
That's
Okay,
much.
17% in 3 months. Okay, some markets take 3-4 years to get 17% growth, but it's done quite well for them. And they're in a position now where they actually can do something by releasing equity and going again. They put a 20% deposit down. So when doing that, you're able to release it. That 17% of equity that's appreciated by, you're going to be able to take that full amount out and use that to get into your next property, which is fantastic. But I think there's a number of reasons of why the market's done well. But of course, as well, if you look at the rental yield, it's quite healthy as well at $550 a week in rent, which is a 5.8% rental yield as well. So really, this property is not really costing them that much to hold this property also. So from an investment perspective, it's grown in value and it's actually not costing them much to hold with high interest rates.
Yep. Two little things I want to highlight there. We break our back working for 50 or not 50, 100 grand a year. We break our back. If you have the ability to buy assets to allow them to break your back within 3 months, like this is obviously done, I look at that, and you and I, Frank, look at that as these guys have made an extra 100 grand this year. Obviously, that multiplies. You buy 3 or 4 properties, these guys have made an extra 400 grand this year. So that's the first thing. And the second thing, that rental yield, which is a really decent rental yield, right? That rental yield, what did they buy it at? It was rent hasn't risen. No, rent hasn't risen in that period, right? That rental yield will continue to rise. So what is a 5.84% rental yield today? Next year will probably go up to 580. The debt stays the same, remember? 590, 600, 620. All of a sudden, that property, like a lot of our properties now, Frank, they're yielding at 10, 11%. And then, as you mentioned, you put down a 20% deposit. That's when property starts generating a bit of an income. Cool. Okay, cool. Anything else you want to touch on this property?
I think in this area as well, rents have increased around 8% in the last 12 months. But if we bring it back to the last 3 months, the rents have increased by 4%. So like the rents are moving in this area. If you can have a look at SQM data and you can just type in, E10 and put the postcode in. It can show you what the market has done. So from a capital growth perspective, it's doing fantastic. But as well, from a rental perspective, we're not seeing this market slow down anytime soon. The crazy thing with Bunbury, so I don't want to touch more about the property, I think more the region, is that it had a growth rate per year at 2.76%, which is absolutely bonkers, meaning that the population is just increasing, and a lot of it was internal migration, so people leaving other parts around Australia and migrating there, and that's why we've seen a big influx on prices and on rental prices as well.
Yep. Yeah, cool. And if anyone's new here, this is how we go about presenting a property. So as you can see, it's on a massive block of land. It's a bit of an older build, 1988. But remember, 1988 clean build. Nothing to be done to it. I like that, Frank. All right, I'm interested to talk about...
I might touch on something while you're there.
Yeah, well, what's the region? Talk to me.
Yeah, I want to touch on probably more that 1988 build. We get a lot of people and they fixate on what the house looks like. It needs to be new. I want depreciation. I challenge that and I say, do you really care about the depreciation if you just made 100 grand in a year, or property's grown 17% in a year? Because if you look at it, if you sell that property, this is where the penny drops. You sell that property, that depreciation that you claimed, you're going to have to pay that back. So who cares about the depreciation? That's my take. I've got properties I can't depreciate. I've got properties I have depreciated because I can. But eventually, one day, I may sell those properties. There's probably a big possibility I will, to be honest, with some of my strategies that I'm doing at the moment. But who cares about depreciation? Do you care about the property growing, performing, giving you, capital growth? You decide to sell this in 5 years' time. It's probably growing $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 in value. You sell it, you use that, you put it into another asset or do whatever you like with it. Regardless if you've had to pay for a hot water service or you had to paint the property, some of those things really, it's some of it is improving the property, especially if it's painting or bathrooms or whatever it may be. You never lose that sort of money. But of course, hot water service and things like that, of course, you don't really get that back because it's just a maintenance item. But what I'm trying to say here is the depreciation, you're always going to have to pay that back if you ever sell the property. Not many people actually know that. So depreciation is great, but you're not here to save money. You're not here to save money on tax. You're here to build wealth through property if that's why you're investing in property and if you're watching this as well.
Okay, devil's advocate. Why can't you build wealth through property and also get depreciation?
Definitely can, but if you look at if you're saying, okay, I want to go get some brand new off the plan, a lot of those areas you're buying in an estate, there's no scarcity. Oh, they can just go knock down another farm and build more properties. When you're buying in an area like this, it's a sought after location. There's scarcity. It's established. They can't just go knock down a farm. There's no farms that knock down. It's all built out. So if you look at those areas, and like I jumped on, I touched on those affluent scores and talking about the demographic of people, the incomes and the owned outright levels, the stability in those markets, that there trumps anything more than just a new build property in a new estate. You can get a new quality home in this area, maybe that someone's built. Fantastic. Great. Okay. That's great. But sometimes you're not going to get that as well, 9 times out of 10, because it's not everyone's knocking down houses and building new houses in this area.
Gotcha. Yep. Okay. So again, just to play devil's advocate, right? Because this is, I agree, right? And at the end of the day, 1988 doesn't mean a shit property at all. There's some would actually argue that 1950 properties are better built than what they are today, right? And they're more sturdy and they're right. Me personally, I prefer a property which, I've got a pretty old property not far from Bunbury, but it's had a really nice renovation. And, the renovation is well, but the best thing about the property is, sure, I can claim depreciation, that's fine, but it's not giving me any headaches. Right now, I think is that your thoughts? Is that your belief? You know, like whether it's an old property or a new property, that's depreciation. Yeah, yes or no. What's your thoughts on? Well, hang on. If it's old and it's going to give you headaches, and every single week you're going to get a maintenance item, what's your belief on that?
Look, I think my belief, my take on it is a little bit different to other people. I've got a property in Bunbury myself. That's probably one of my best performing properties.
Yep.
I bought that property after 1 year. I took out 105 grand of equity because it grew that much, and I usually go buy another property.
Yep.
Now, that property there today, I'm doing a bathroom reno because something's let go on the wall. The insurance didn't cover me. I was fighting them for it, and all these things happen. For some people, they're stressed and they're pulling their hair and go, oh my God. For me, I didn't care. Now, that job there, it's about a 10 grand job. Ripping out the wall and changing the cavity behind the shower. A whole bunch of things are going on. I don't look at it as a bad thing because I've just stripped out 105 grand of equity to get me another property. So and that property there is 1978 build. It's even older again, but right. It has had a renovation in the past, but I didn't really freak out and stress myself out because I looked at it as like, this property's actually made me wealth. It's actually got me another property this year. And that property there, the one I just purchased now, I'm going to get another property out of that one this year again. So like, I don't really care about that. I look at the opportunity that if I sat there and focus on, new, and it needs to be like this, and it needs to have a tin roof instead of a, tiled roof and all these sort of things, that's great. But then you're just narrowing yourself into a corner that's just making it harder for yourself to get a great property. And sometimes you're overpaying for a property just because of the build quality. Remember, regardless if there's 2 properties in Bunbury, one's brand new and one's 40 or 50 years old, okay? Let's say this is in decent condition, that's 40 years old. The one that's new, it's brand new, nothing wrong with it. You're paying for the build. The land's valued the same. So you're just literally paying for the build. So that's my take on it. Of course, you still want to be buying something that's not going to cost you every single year 10 grand, 20 grand in repayment, in repairs.
Of course.
But of course, if there's going to be things that pop up, you have to soak those. You have to soak it, and you have to say, okay, it is what it is. As long as some of those things are like my shower that I'm putting back in. The whole bathroom's going to be brand new. It's actually going to add value to my house. So I'm not too freaked out about that. Of course, little things, hot water services, and all that sort of stuff. You're going to get that, but that's my take on it.
No, listen, I agree with you. I do agree with you. I think there is a fine line. Because there's ultimately there's hundreds of strategies, but there's 2 strategies with it. You go out and you go buy a property that, you're going to have to spend $50,000, $60,000. If you guys were here a few weeks ago, Audrey and SK, we put a whole bunch of money into one of their properties. They renovated it, got one of the highest yields in the whole city, right? And the value's gone nuts. That's a very different strategy from just wanting to buy a property. So yeah, there's pros and cons with buying something brand new as opposed to buying something, 30, 40 years old. I think that the silver lining is, though, if you can buy something at 1980 like these guys have, it's high quality builds, it's had exceptional growth, and they haven't been pigeonholed into, I've got to buy a property worth $550,000. They purchased a property under 500 grand 3 months ago. You couldn't even sniff a property for that amount now. Okay, cool. The region itself, Frank, you're very big on the region, and you're that big on the region that you bought one for yourself. So obviously you believe in it. Tell me why.
So we've got 7 industries that are driving the economy. So it's very diverse. Mining's probably one of the ones that's not really driving it that much. So it's not really a mining town. It's probably one of the lower end of the spectrum. We've got healthcare, retail, trades, education. They're the ones that are kind of really driving the economy. The tourism is there as well. It's one of the best performing, or at the moment, it is the best performing regional town in WA. And I think it's actually in the top 10 in Australia. Okay, so it's doing extremely well.
In the last 12 months, I'm pretty sure the most capital growth in the last 12 months.
I think it's grown 27%, the whole region, which is crazy. So just remember that's a region. You're picking the whole of Bunbury is growing 27%. When you get down to the ground level, some of those areas are growing like 30, 40%. So which is crazy. Yeah. Population, like I said, 2.7% growth rate per year, which is crazy. Over 107,000 people living there. It's got the lithium battery plant, $2.2 billion project. Over nearly $250 million project on the hospital upgrade, port upgrade. It's got the train station from Perth to Australind there, and it's had 6 school upgrades as well. So investing in the schools and a whole bunch of other things. So it's done extremely well. A lot of money getting spent, and it's close to Busselton. And I'm not sure if people know where Busselton is. Busselton's it's a strong market. It's a tourism market. It's really got nothing driving it from an economy perspective, but Busselton's just down the road, and Busselton is one of the best performing markets as well in the past. And it's getting this flow-on effect with the tourism in Bunbury. And so Bunbury's a very attractive place, beautiful beaches. It doesn't have that hustle and bustle like Perth does, even though Perth is probably quiet compared to Melbourne. Or Sydney, but it's very relaxing. So we've seen a big change there, and a lot of people migrating there, and that's positive signs of what's going on.
Awesome. I want to highlight something, because just before this call, I was having a chat with a gentleman, and he was talking about, some of these regions that, we invest in. And he was talking about, that's fine that you're investing in these regions, and that's fine that you're getting 40, 50, 60, 70% growth and whatnot. But how about the long sustainable growth? And I essentially went back to him and I said, mate, I just kind of took him down kind of memory lane. I said, over a 30-year period, right, these major economies, these, your big regional towns and your big cities, over a 30-year period, everything kind of averages out. It's going to be your 6 to 8% growth, right, per annum, okay? And this is what I said to him. I said, where it really differs is over that 10-year period. Over a 10-year period, let's talk Bunbury, your property will literally do 150%, 120% growth over a 10-year period. Realistically, that growth will probably happen over a 5-year period, right? You purchase a property in Melbourne back in 2019, which this gentleman did, the growth rate over a 10-year period, it might only be 20, 30%. That is the serious difference. Think about the difference in dollar values, right? And what you can actually do with one of these properties versus buying a property in the wrong period at the wrong time. Over a 30-year period, yes, long-term property works. We all know that. But the difference between an awesome investor and I think an average investor, someone that's just going to buy 1, 2, maybe even 3 properties, is someone that can just identify the best region at the best time and the best property, of course. Because think about what this opens up for these guys. Their property will probably be worth double in a 5-year period. Could they sell that asset, put that money into their home? Could they sell that asset and buy 2 properties? You are open to more options if you're able to select the right region at the right time, which these guys obviously have.
And I think on that as well, everyone likes to remember the good times in certain areas. and then they when it comes to looking at the other areas that are doing well today, like Perth or Bunbury or wherever it may be, they get a bad rap, but no one ever goes back and challenges Sydney and Melbourne for some reason. They don't go back and go, oh, all they think is that it's consistent growth. It goes up.
Yes.
No, it does. If you look at Melbourne since COVID, it's actually gone back by 10% in some regions, if not more.
Yep.
So is it really always going up? Like, I question that. At the moment, Adelaide and Brisbane are past Melbourne prices, and I think Perth is on the way as well. So really, if you look at that, people, when they hear that Adelaide surpassed Melbourne in medium house price, like, they go, "What? Are you crazy?" I remember buying properties for $245,000 in Adelaide. Some of those properties worth 600 plus. Now, when people go, "Oh, is that market will keep going because it's the capital city?" Not necessarily. It's going to have a slowdown pretty soon. Absolutely. And same with Bunbury, and same with every other region. Okay. What I will say is that some markets, especially in Perth and all around other parts around Australia, that the government have invested in different industries and tried to change the economy, not be so reliant on one sector. And that has happened a lot in around Australia, especially in WA and other parts around Queensland and stuff like that. So of course, you have to do due diligence, because you don't mean just you go buy in a mining town like Port Hedland or something just because I've just said that. You have to look into the data of every region, because every region is a little bit different from each other.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And see, again, I probably should have mentioned this. It's the exact same conversation I just had with the gentleman. He purchased a property in Melbourne, and he said, I'm a bit scarred buying regional properties, because I bought the property in Melbourne, in Victoria, regional Victoria, 2019. I had 2 years of good growth, and then now the property's done nothing. And I just asked him the question. I said, do you think that had anything to do with Victoria being the worst state in the country over the last 5 years? And he kind of looked and went, yeah, well, it's probably a good point. Victoria, if you bought a property in Melbourne, 2019, that property is likely to be worth the same. Flip it on its head. I bought a property in Bundaberg 5 years ago, myself, 4 years ago. That property's worth double today. So the difference, if you get it wrong, is literally $500,000, right? Like, it's not chump change. It's a lot of money. A lot of money. Anyway, we can keep waffling. Frank, what's next for Ryan and Tanya?
So we are going out there again. We're going to probably buy around that $485K price point. We're looking at their serviceability, so we don't, go over the budget, and then that means they can't get their third one. We're looking at accumulator properties. So accumulators, or you can call them foundational properties. These are properties that you're buying that are properties that are going to grow in value, like what we've just done here. We need to do the rinse and repeat, because this is going to be their second property. Okay, if they're new to investing, of course, we're building up the base. Okay, if you don't have good foundations and if you start off on the wrong side and you start going, oh, I want cash flow, that might be great, but to get cash flow and not equity, is going to jeopardize your journey. So we need to get some more equity in this portfolio so we can keep expanding and get them to their goal there, okay? And get to 5 properties like they wanted, 5 investment properties. Or they want to pay off their home and then have 5 investment properties. But what we're doing, we're building out this portfolio. The strategies that are put together is that we're going to buy accumulators. Eventually, we're going to be selling off some of these accumulators to pay off their family home debts, which is the fastest way. As you said before, age. If you can have a property and grow 100 grand in 3 months or even a year, that's like you trying to save 100 grand in 1 year. For it's virtually impossible for everyone that's on the award wage in Australia. So, the average wage in Australia. So you look at that. If we can do that with, say, 5 or 6 properties, and they can keep performing, why can't they pay off their house in the next 5 years? That's how I look at it. So I think the strategy is doing quite well. We just got to keep doing what we're doing, buying these foundational accumulator properties. And then eventually when we get to that 4 or 5 properties, we're going to, start changing up the strategy and doing a few other bits and pieces to it.
Yeah. So definitely. So again, a lot of people might look at this and go, oh, 4 or 5 properties. How are they going to do that? What's their borrowing capacity out? They got their PPR there. There is selling in between this, right? So there is selling. It's not just, we're going to buy 5 properties. Everyone's going to hit a cap. There are a lot of, we'll call it creative ways that you can buy property in certain entities, sell down property in certain entities to then continue to purchase and continue to kind of go towards your goals. We are not accountants. We can't say anything. So yeah, to our clients, you guys are comfortable because you've probably seen the plans for this. But that is the plan. And as you just mentioned, wouldn't it be pretty cool if their property that's just done 17% in its first 3 months over a 5-year period has grown 100%? And when I say wouldn't it be cool, we're pretty confident. And when I say we're pretty confident, we're absolutely confident that is going to happen. But they'll do that. They'll do another property. All of a sudden, they have the ability. They have $1 million worth of equity. Their PPR is there's not $1 million worth of debt there. So that goal's there. That's a tick. How do they continue building on the portfolio and actually retire with shitload of cash, shitload of properties there that they can then pass on to their kids, or just continue to build it out and actually enjoy it? So I love it. I love it. One thing I didn't mention, and this is on your turn here. One thing I mentioned at the start, if anyone's just joined us right now, Tanya and Ryan, and I'm going to go all the way back to the start. Tanya and Ryan, they joined us in December of 2023. They joined up on a promo. There was a very cool promo. Every single year, we tend to run an end-of-year promo. This year, so they jumped on in December. We got them finances sorted. They actually we didn't start the search till like April. And they ended up purchasing the property. They purchased this property in April and they settled in May. By May, the property's worth $574. So they made $80,000 within 3 months. Okay, they settled in May. They were on our end-of-year sale. It was an end-of-year sale, right? As I said, and they got all these bonuses and goodies and whatnot. Usually we run it every single year. This year, we're running one next week. So if you, I mean, I know there's a lot of people on here watching, but next week, just keep an eye out for your emails. Keep an eye out for your texts. Keep an eye out for a few things because we are running something very similar. Anyone wants to reach out to Ryan and Tanya, you could probably say it was an absolute steal. And they've, how much have they X'd it by? Probably 20x their investment on the promo. So anyway, next week, I don't know when it's happening, Monday or Tuesday, sometime next week, it's coming. But the same type of promo that was ran in December is going to be ran next week. And I think it only runs for a week. I'm pretty sure. Frank, maybe you can confirm. I don't know. I don't know how long it lasts.
Yes, only a week. So something that we don't do often, but definitely don't miss out because once again, if you look what they've done, anyone else can achieve. And if you're someone that's new to property, this shows what's possible if you buy correctly as well. So this is it can be a turning point like it was for Ryan and Tanya.
Absolutely. Frank, that's on 30 minutes. We're 6 minutes late because of the little technological delay. Thank you, everyone, for staying on. I was mentioned that there was a Helen on here as well. So hello to a Helen that has come on. Not our Helen, another Helen. But I hope that was helpful. Look out for your emails next week. That is all I'm going to say. There is a serious promo coming. It lasts a week. All the bells and whistles. I don't really actually know too much about it. The marketing team have kind of managed it all, but I'm just the person there to dress up and do funny things to promote it. So look out for it. If you want to also be like Tanya and Ryan, purchase an asset that triples the Australian average growth rate in 3 months, you have a chance next week. Awesome.
Well, guys, enjoy. Thank you again for everyone staying tuned. I really appreciate all the viewers. It means a lot to us. If you've got any questions, just reach out. We don't bite. Okay. I'm not going to charge you for our time. So just reach out. One of us will help you out, point in the direction as well. And thank you again.
And thank you everyone for staying on. Take care.